Hello and welcome back. So we're going to be talking about the data logger. This is what we're going to put in our birdhouses or any other experiments out there, so that it will just basically record temperature and the humidity, relative humidity, over time. And so we'll be able to link all of our sensors together. This is a pretty intuitive one. It works pretty easy, I think, anyway. So we just ordered the SensorPush HTTP.xw, whatever that all stands for. But basically, this particular sensor does temperature and relative humidity. So pretty straightforward things. Your other device, your Kestrel device, will measure these, or you can manually measure them using a thermometer and your Sling psychrometer. But this one is using more of a digital approach to it. So when you open the box, there are three things that will be in there. There's going to be a start here pack, which makes it pretty intuitive. Then a legal jargon, terms of service, et cetera thing. And then the device is going to be in like this little package that you can keep it in. The battery normally comes inside the device already. I recommend taking it out when you're not using it, and then installing the battery whenever you do need it. So here's the start here. It's pretty intuitive. So I mean, you literally just walk through each one of those little steps there. And so start here, 0.1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, et cetera, including the downloading the app. So that should be one of your first things, how you install the battery. It's really straightforward. I'll show you how to do it anyway. And then how you set up the sensor and all sorts of stuff. And I'll show you what the interface looks like there. So you need to download the app. And here's the direct link to the app. So sensorpush.com/apps. And this will work on Android, or it will work on Apple, or whichever. So you'll just install that little critter there. It's pretty straightforward. You will have to give permission. So the best way to do this is with a cell phone. So use your own cell phone with the app, and then you can run it from there. When you go back to the actual thing, you got a bag. So you take out of the bag, you've got a sensor and the little silica do not eat sort of thing. So don't eat that. It even says so. So in here, there's just a little screw on this. We're looking at the back of the sensor, and you can use your thumbnail or a coin or a screwdriver, flathead screwdriver, whatever, just to open that. So the battery should be in there already, unless I've taken it out, or somebody else has taken it out. When you open up that little case there, it's just a really simple battery. It's a big button battery is what these things are called. Be careful with these. These are mercury. They need to be disposed of properly. There's a really fun experiment you can do with this by putting a button battery, if you have an extra one, into like Spam. I just saw it recently. And the acidity in the Spam, it basically causes a big burn. This is why make sure these aren't swallowed. They can be very, very dangerous because the way that they react with things. But if you really want a fun experiment just off the side, you can do that one with your FLIR. But anyway, other than that, just put the battery in the thing and close it back up. So battery goes in there, face up like this, and then you put that on and you just close it right up. When you flip the little critter over, this is the sensor, so it's designed to be standing up on its end. So this is laying down flat. But you want to make sure that the sensor hole is not covered, so it doesn't want to be face down or anything's obscuring that sort of thing. So when you look at your sensor itself, and I'll recommend this later on in the video too, but I recommend just right here with a Sharpie, just put a number 1 or a 2 or a 3 or 4, however you want to code it, just so it's easier to keep track of which sensor is which, because they all look the same and you'll be moving them around. So are you going to start the app? So when you start up the app, the first thing it's going to do is say add device. So it'll kind of force you to do that. So you click on this button, which gives you this. We're going to do add sensor here. And so we're going to add a sensor. The battery needs to be on and the sensor needs to be somewhere near you so that it can find it. We don't need a gateway. That's if you're doing Wi-Fi, which you can set up, but you know, it's all up to you on how complicated you want to be. I'm just going to show you the simple way to do it. It's going to give you required settings. So one of the things is, this is the default right here. I've got my battery optimization on. It wants you to turn that off so that it can monitor this thing aptly. I don't recommend changing this one because it will drain your battery like crazy. This one up here you do have to change. So you're going to have to switch on it and say, I'm allowing you to find nearby devices. It's a new legalese code that you have to manually approve finding devices around you. You need your Bluetooth on. and then you'd be able to find devices. So that will check on, you get those two checks on, that's good. This is optional down there, you don't have to worry about it. Once you do that, it will find the sensor and it'll go like, hooray, there's a sensor. It says new sensor 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. I highly recommend that you rename this, maybe like the club that we're working on, Boys and Girls Club, or whichever club you're at, and just add that name in there, then sensor 1, sensor 2, or whatever, sensor A, B, C, whatever you're putting with the Sharpie on there, so that you can keep track of which sensor is which, because it does get a little complicated there. And then you want temperature and relative humidity on. You can put barometric pressure and dew point and all sorts of other fun stuff on there. You can turn those on. Relative humidity and temperature are going to be the main ones because we're going to be comparing the difference there. Your barometric pressure should be the same between all of your units. Once it's alive and kicking, you can see that we've actually got, this is what it defaults to. So I've got my relative humidity and my temperature. So as I open up the box and looked at it, it'll give you a trending, rising or falling. So if we want to add another device, you can just click the plus up there, you get the same thing, and you can keep adding all the devices on as you find them. So it'll find them one at a time, name them. So I recommend the best way to do this is have the batteries out of all of them, put a battery in one, link the sensor, add the battery to the next one, link a sensor, add a battery to the next one, link a sensor, label them, and then you'll be good to go because we're going to be using, I think, 4 sensors here with this group. You do need to change the settings. So that little cogwheel back there on the previous slide, there's a settings here. So click there. You can link your account. You're welcome to do that if you want. It will just save your data up there. It'll have your Bluetooth, but what you want to do is you'll notice that all of its units right there are in the American standard. We need to put it into scientific standard there. So in millibars, your distance is going to be in meters, and then your units will be in Celsius. So you change that under settings. Once you get that critter rolling, you'll now actually start logging. And so this is just a short period of time. I just let it out there, went from inside to outside, so the temperatures kind of jumped all over the place. You can reset the data here as well. So pretty easy there. If you scroll down on this, you can get all the way down. There's export data as CSV, that's comma, separated value. And then you can import your data that's been recorded in the sensor. Export your data onto your phone, and then emailing it to yourself is the easiest way to do it. And then you can open that up. Or if you're on a laptop that has Bluetooth and you've got the app, you can just have it all right there. But one of the easy ways to do it is just have your phone. That way, you know, you're close enough to the sensor, you can download the data when you need it. You just simply click and pull down, and it will reset the device if it's not loading data actively. So you can see how long it's been out there, and it will record literally for weeks and weeks and weeks if you really want it to. So as we set up our experiment, we can run these things if we're leading our birdhouses out, or we can do the terrarium experiment. There's lots of different things we can do with it. Just make sure that you're not blocking the sensor. So the common mistakes here are pretty straightforward. So you don't have your software linked, and so your data's logging, you just don't have it connected. But once you connect it, you'll get all the data that's running. The other thing is the battery dies, or it's dead, or it's installed upside down, silly stuff like that, or your Wi-Fi is not connected if you're using Wi-Fi. Really, the only thing that you got to watch out for with these sensors is don't put it in direct sunlight. So you want it to be shaded so that you can get the air temperature, ideally at 4.5 feet above the ground, in a double louvered white shelter so that you don't get wind on it. So those sorts of things. And remember, wind is going to cause a problem if you've got a lot of moisture on your device. If you get wind going across it, it'll promote advection, and so you're going to change your temperature, just like we did with our a sweating experiment, or how the sling psychrometer works. So really, it's just a matter of making sure that it's clean, it's dry, and it's in a shaded spot. In the birdhouse will be perfectly shaded, that sort of thing. If you're doing a terrarium experiment, you got to be careful about how you put it in there so that the sunlight's not hitting it directly. So that sort of thing can throw it off, because you're going to heat up the plastic container, and the plastic container can actually throw off the air temperature. You're measuring the heat of the plastic as well. And so the other thing is confusing the sensors, because if you have 4 sensors, which one is which? So my ploy that I use, I just link one, take all the batteries out so that none of them are on, none of them are live. Put the battery in one, link it. I know that one is the one I just linked. Label it, change the name. Do the second one, do the third one, do the fourth one, do the fifth one, the sixth one, however many you want. But keep track of which one is which. And so if you have to redo it, you don't necessarily have to do it in order. You just have to make sure that the numbers are separate. Why does it work? Well, this is working the similar way that the Kestrel is. We're looking at the temperature and sensor humidity, so it's got a thermometer and hygrometer, the digital, and it's going to be measuring the temperature. So it will measure the temperature over time. Usually it's every minute, sometimes it's 30 minutes, depends on what the settings are. And then it uploads that data to your app. And so this will record it over time. So you want to make sure your time is set right. The ones that I was playing around with, was already set correctly, so that was cool. I actually think it's taking the data from your phone once you link it, to be honest with you, but you can keep those things. And then you can export your data, and then we can eventually start making graphs with it, which I'll make another fun video for that, of what kind of graphics we can make with our data. Okay, so with that, thank you very much. That concludes this one.